Friday, March 8th, 7 o'clock in the evening. This will be the last good night of seeing, probably for several days, and this may be the last opportunity. Well, it's Monday the 29th of April. I've got high thin clouds. I do not expect to get much astro in tonight. However, this has been the first opportunity since the new full moon to be able to actually get out and do any kind of astro. I'm basically just checking out the alignments and the presentation of the screen and the scope. I've remounted the TFT monitor screen slightly to try to get a little flatter image. It looks a little bright to me, however. But the sky is still relatively light and there are clouds reflecting the street lights from above. We just saw some kind of streak across the screen there. So hopefully it will give a better view as it gets darker, but those high thin clouds are going to be an issue. I'm going to go ahead and line up the scope on a bright star and see how it centers up. But this is the screen flatness as it appears right now. It's not too bad. The gradient is fairly even all the way across the screen from the top to the bottom, so it does look promising. This is a go-to position with Arcturus, kind of low into the southeast. Not too bad on the screen. I did a 4-star alignment previously. I might go ahead and center it up and then resynchronize and take another break and wait for it to get a little bit darker before I go back and begin a sweep beginning with NGC 4200 if the sky permits. Leaping around here and there from 4200 onwards, looking either for the faintest galaxies that might be in the threshold or brighter ones that will give a better image of galactic structure. Just synchronized to Arcturus. It's a little bit more of a challenging process when you're operating at 128 flood. It doesn't quite leap around quickly enough, but that's a pretty good position for it. Let's go ahead and hop to another star and see how that turns up. Maybe we will go to Regulus, or perhaps Denebola. Denebola more likely, because it'll be in this half of the sky. Denebola is probably some 45 degrees to the west of Arcturus, which is no longer visible, so I know I am being pursued by clouds this evening. You'll notice we're about one finger further to the top of the screen. That means it's probably within about 3 or 4 arc minutes in terms of tracking accuracy. Let me give you an idea of some of the alignment parameters. They're not particularly good. Ooh, the deck index error is 6,261. That's usually twice what I expect to see. So I may, and this is after resetting clock on the Gemini 2 system, so I may have to do some mechanical adjustments. The deck being the worst, polar axis azimuth is minus 3,000. Horary hour index area is about 1,000. That's reasonable. Polar axis elevation is less than 1,000. Non-perpendicularity and counterweight flexure are all zeros, so those numbers are pretty good. The next night out, I probably will make some mechanical adjustments and redo the modeling of the scope. All right, this is going to be our first study of the evening through relatively imperfect skies. I can see Arcturus, it's not very bright. There are high thin clouds. What we're hoping to see here is a galaxy, NGC 4203 in Gamma Berenices, bright, magnitude 10.9, 3.5 by 3.2 arc minutes, spiral of the lenticular class with a bar, 50 million light years distant. If I had to, it's 33 degrees north in declination, which is nice, 12 hour, 15 minutes, so we're halfway through the sidereal year. If I had to pick out anything that looked galactic, it would probably be this fellow right here, because it's got a brightish star with some wash around it. Given this is almost a face-on galaxy, all we're really seeing there is the core with some luminosity in its extended core region. But for a 10.9 magnitude galaxy, not much of a look. But what I'm looking for here is to get a sense of screen flatness, which is, well, improved over previous observing sessions, the last of which was like in March. I think it was the 8th of March, so it's been quite a while now that we're pushing May. I'll go ahead and look for something else that might be bright. Maybe we can turn up a globular cluster or something which will give us a better sense of what we're seeing. Let's watch this one develop on the screen. This is NGC 4212. I'll give the data on in a second. We're going to see some variability as clouds come and go. I do want to get a few studies in. Oh, that galaxy is quite present, isn't it? NGC 4212 is a galaxy in Coma Berenices, and it's also NGC 4208. It's a magnitude 11.2, pretty impressive, 3.2 by 2 arc minutes in size. Spiral of the lowercase c, which means 3 times removed from the lenticular class. The galaxy, as I mentioned, is magnitude 11.2. It's 61 million light years distant, which doesn't put it very large, maybe a dwarf at about 40,000 light years in diameter, but I am pleased with the view we are getting. As we look at that a little bit more, I'll go ahead and proceed with some other galaxies. There's an elliptical, 12.5. Oh, magnitude 9.8, Canis Venatici. This looks very promising. Let's go have a look at it. Let's watch this one develop too as I look up the data. And you see 4214. That's pretty obvious on the screen right there. NGC 4214, another galaxy in Canis Venatici. NGC is also NGC 4228, magnitude 9.8 and large. We're not seeing much of it, 8.4 by 7.2 arc minutes. It's an irregular galaxy, a mere 10 million light years distant, which puts it probably about 30,000 light years in diameter. We're at plus 36 degrees in declination, and you can see the irregularity in it. There's actually looks like an H2 region off to the 2 o'clock position, as well as the core, with some distensions of the core region off towards the 7 o'clock position on that galaxy. Not bad. Magnitude 9.8, but we should be seeing more of it than that. I'd give it an average surface brightness of maybe 15. We should be seeing more, and maybe we will with time. Let me go ahead as you look at that galaxy. NGC 4214, skip through a few more and we'll see what we can come up with. There's a magnitude 10 galaxy in Virgo. Let's go take a look at this. This is fairly large and edge on. NGC 4216 will be our next study. Now let's watch this one develop on the screen. One of the virtues of not doing the catalog approach, which I curtailed earlier in the year because of a discontinuity, is the fact that it doesn't matter if I spend more time on studies. Beautiful, near edge-on galaxy. Look at that, NGC 4216 galaxy in Virgo. 10th magnitude, 7.8 by 1.8 arc minutes. Basically a 5-to-1 aspect ratio galaxy with nice extension and a brilliant star-like core. Spiral with a bar and a lowercase b, which means it's on the lower arc of the tuning fork. 59 million light years distant. Given its size, I would say it's larger than the Milky Way, probably somewhere around 100,000 light years in diameter. Have a look at this while I skip around for our next study. Ooh, that one's quite nice too, 4217. Let's make a hop to it. We're nearly going vertical on this one. I do not think the scope is partially blocked. I'll give you some data on it anyway. NGC 4217. And we can get an idea of how far north it is. 4217, dialing it in here on my hand controller for the Gemini unit. Yeah, we're not getting much of a look at this baby. 4217 is a galaxy in Canis Venatici. It's at 47 degrees. Why didn't I look at that before? But it is magnitude 11.2, 4.8 by 1.5 arc minute spiral with a lowercase b, 53 million light years distant, puts it about 50 to 60,000 light years in diameter. And we're not getting much of a look, but I can see a little bit of its luminosity there. We're getting about half the aperture of the scope blocked. There's another one we can watch develop, NGC 4222. It's in Coma Berenices. It's kind of south. I think it's about minus or plus 15 degrees. Let me get the data on this while you watch it develop. What was that again? 4227? Okay, maybe I should have paid a little more attention to that. I'll put 17 in though, and we'll see if it's at the right location. I can skip along. Ooh, we already saw this galaxy here. Here's another candidate galaxy right there. Okay, nope, that's not it. Nope, skipping. Okay, this is NGC 4222, a galaxy in Coma Berenices, sharing the field with that earlier nice edge-on galaxy. This one's magnitude 13.3, 3.1 by 0.5 arc minutes, which explains its very edge-on appeal. Spiral with a lowercase c and d, so it's got some distortion to its shape. 61 million light years distant. It's at plus 13 and change degrees in declination. There's our view, along with that previous study, which was earlier in the 4200 series down below. Okay, another developer on the screen, NGC 4224. Okay, another faint, wispy little extended galaxy. This is NGC 4224, galaxy in Virgo. Brighter though, magnitude 11.8, 2.5 by 1 arc minute. We should be seeing more of that galaxy at that magnitude and aspect ratio. It's 83 million light years distant, puts it at about 60,000 light years in diameter. We're at a declination of 7.5 degrees, or right ascension 12 hours, 16 minutes and 33 seconds. The sky is still looking, maybe some high thin clouds where we're looking now. It was better earlier. We may be knocking off shortly, but it's so nice to get back out and do some imaging after more than a month of absences from the dark, deep and dark skies. Well, a few stepper motor counts away is 4233 NGC. It's another galaxy. Oh, let's watch this baby develop. It looks like we're getting lots of speckling on the screen, which suggests to me that we got high thin clouds. Not sure we're going to see much of this. Arcturus has disappeared. We're maybe calling this a night, Carpe Noctem, but let me skip through. I still want to see if we can turn up some kind of a globular cluster, but this was NGC 4233. I should give you some data on it. Maybe the clouds apart. Okay, we got nada on the screen. NGC 4233, galaxy in Virgo, magnitude 11.9. 2.4 by 1.1 arc minute spiral with a bar of the lenticular class, 108 million light years distant. If I were at the eyepiece of the telescope on a really good night, I just might be able to see this through the 6-inch scope. Without the CCD imager, it would be on the limits. One more chance for the sky to clear up, or something like a globular cluster to be visible, and then we shall call it a Carpe Noctem. Well, folks, I'm already up to NGC 4300 by stepping through the Gemini 2 NGC catalog at nothing but galaxies. I'll check the Messiers just quickly. I don't recall there was one sort of in Bootes, but now the clouds have really just rolled in. It is going to be Carpe Noctem, but for the first time in over a month, we've been able to capture a few images, and there was one galaxy in there, NGC 4203, I believe it was. Nice, large, edge-on spiral galaxy with a brilliant core. That is the feature studies of the night. Carpe Noctem. Yep. Now, some people call it the Flame Nebula, but it also looks like a maple leaf. So the Canadians do have something to be to point at in the night sky in order to reflect their appreciation for maple trees. This is NGC 2024, a nebula in Orion of the, obviously, look at its color. So is it reflective or is it emissive? It's an emissive nebula. It is going to shine at a specific frequency that is expected. I believe it'll be hydrogen. It's going to be some kind of singly or doublet, some kind of hydrogen gas that's going to have gone through some kind of ionization process. I'd have to look up to get the details on it. I'm not a chemist, but I understand enough about valence electrons and things to make sense of it. We're at -1 and almost 2 degrees in declination. Our right ascension is 54142. So let me just go ahead and give that to you. We are now concluding for this evening with a beautiful view of the Flame Nebula, NGC 2024 in Orion. It's the size, if you could see all of it, we can, of the moon at 30 by 30 arc minutes. It is an emissive type nebula, which means it is being ionized to some degree, and as the electrons move back and forth and bounce around, they basically give off this colored light, which is reddish, 1,500 light years distant. It's at right ascension 5 hour, 41 minutes and 42 seconds, and it's at declination -1 degree, 51 minutes and 24 seconds. Should be able to see it. Probably a 10-inch scope would give a decent view. It is a fairly low average surface brightness study. You should be able to find it with it. Somewhere in this neighborhood, if you cross Alnitak and you go to the opposite side, you would be able to make out the Horsehead Nebula. And I have yet to find a designation for that, although I could put in its declination and right ascension, and the scope would go to it. But I won't have a chance for that, because this beautiful sky is not going to last much longer. We're going to get more rain and snow here in Grant County, eastern Oregon. So I bid you all a Carpe Noctem.